see how you're feeling today, you can go ahead and shoot a face. And then it'll take you to that screen. Awesome. And what I'm doing on my end is just scrolling through the responses that I've seen from you. So I get to see everybody's from the teacher dashboard. But I'm clicking that little star icon that we talked about last week because those will be the only pictures that are on the screen for everybody else to see. So if I missed yours and you want to share it, please let me know. I'm not leaving anybody out on purpose. But we're going to go ahead and get started. So right now you're in the Peardeck session. You're in a spot where you can respond and you can draw. I want us to switch back over now to the to our Zoom call. So leave this Peardeck presentation open, leave that tab open, and go ahead and jump back over to the Zoom window so that you're able to see each other's responses. So this is the first one that we have to share. Does the person who drew this want to come off mute and tell us a little bit about it?
Okay, that would be me. And what it was is we had parent-teacher conferences on Google Meet. Completely foreign to me. So the first picture is me before conferences, wondering what in the world do I do? How do I do a conference online? And then the second picture is me right now. I had 100% attendance and every single conference went very well. So,
Janine, that is awesome. Good for you. And you're home early.
Yeah.
That's so neat. Good for you. All right, the next one. So this was mine. My challenge this week has been my dog. I love her. She's a little black lab puppy that is in an adult body right now. And she has lots of energy and we're training her to be a hunting dog. The problem is that we also have chickens and she got to play with the chickens this week and it did not go well. So now we are down to one chicken. So that was kind of a bummer. The pro of this week, or the highlight from this week, is that our teachers are in parent-teacher conferences, and I had the chance to conference with teachers. So I had to do kind of coach-teacher conferences, and it was awesome just to be able to talk with people and hear about how things are going and check in. And so that really has been the highlight from my week. Next one on the list is this one. Does our artist want to come off mute and tell us about it?
Okay, that's me.
Awesome, Gailey. Thank you.
I feel so rushed all the time. I had no time to even mess with Peardeck, and I've got to figure out how to use it better in kindergarten.
Okay. I swear. Do you have, Gailey, do you have a highlight from your week?
What?
You have a highlight from your week?
No, I don't have a highlight.
Okay. That is okay.
I made it through.
Good.
I rode the bus to pick up the kids. I rode the bus to take them to school. I rode the bus to take them home. I rushed around for my Zoom meetings. I felt rushed the whole week.
Okay. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I heard a rumor today about a kindergarten teacher that's going to start using Peardeck. So if I hear some good ideas from her, I will pass them off to you.
Throw them my way.
Okay, I can do that. Anybody else that I missed? Highlight from this week. If you don't want to show your drawing, but you do want to come off mute and tell us about it, that's totally fine. Highlight or challenge. All right. Well, we will go ahead and get started then. So good evening, welcome. I'm super glad that you're here today. This is our third session of our Awkward Peardeck PD Socials. And just in case you forgot, my name is McKenzie and I'm kind of host for tonight. I'm super excited to be here. Like I said, I work for the Ontario School District. We're in the middle of parent-teacher conferences. So it's been a busy week. Lots of late nights, but it's been a good week as well. And I'm excited to shift gears and to get to spend this evening with you. So our Peardeck socials are hosted by the Eastern Oregon Wren, and the idea here is that we have weekly opportunities to get together and experience some professional development, but also to network with other educators in our region. And so we meet for 4 Thursday evenings in October. Our last meeting is next Thursday. But our main objectives are to learn strategies for engaging students and families using Peardeck, and then to collaborate with others who are using Peardeck to share ideas and successes and resources. And so that's our overarching goal. We'll talk a little bit more about our specific focus for tonight in just a minute. But just so you're aware, in case you haven't heard, the first 3 teachers who signed up and have come to all 4 sessions in each eligible county receive a 1-year paid subscription to Peardeck. I know there are several of you that have been here for every session so far, so you are on track potentially for this really neat opportunity of having Peardeck Plus for free. A couple of logistics that are important to know. Our session will go until 8:30. If you need to step away at some point because you have other commitments or things that you need to take care of at home, completely understandable. You'll get to see Peardeck tonight from both the teacher side and the student side. I would suggest using a second device if you've got one for joining that Peardeck session. That said, if you need to just jump back and forth between tabs, that is okay too. And if that's too overwhelming, I totally understand. It's okay to sit back and just watch. So I'm going to do a lot of modeling tonight, showing you how to perform some tasks, but you're also going to get some time to practice and explore. And if you want to make a copy of this presentation for any reason, you can have these slides. The address is bit.ly/pdsocial3. Couple of tips for success. The first is just asking that you would mute your microphone unless you're talking intentionally, so that we don't have tons and tons of background noise going on. And then just a suggestion, choosing to fully engage tonight. You've committed at least partially to being here, and I would encourage you to really jump in and to engage with the platform, but also with each other, and share ideas and resources, ask questions, take advantage of the opportunity to network. You are welcome to use the chat feature, ask questions. Just know that if you send me a private message, especially when we're right in the middle of something, there's a chance that I won't see it. And so you're welcome to send Mary Jane a private message, or just post something publicly in the chat, and we'll keep an eye on that. But again, to know that private messages to me sometimes get missed because I don't see them. We talked about using a second device to see both the teacher view and the student view at the same time. This would let you watch really the teacher view coming from me and then the student view coming from your device. But if your internet is struggling, you can sit back and watch. That's totally okay. And then you can also turn your webcam off if need be. That tends to help with some streaming issues. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. We already did our drawing task and had the chance to share those out. So thanks for jumping in and doing that with me. I know it's kind of silly, but it's I really appreciate being able to check in and see how we're doing and just hear about good things and challenges that people have had during the week. So again, thank you for that. Couple quick questions. Yes.
Before you keep going, we have a question. Jody Sharp said that she's at home and she has some poor service. It's in the chat there. She just said that she had a question about while using Peardeck. When she hit show responses, her kids told her that they can't see all of the responses.
Got it. Okay, so when you do show response, it doesn't actually show it on the student side. For them to see the response, you have to share your screen and show via like Zoom or Google, whatever it is that you're using. The idea there when they designed the app was that your kids are using it in class, and so they've got their device in front of them, and then the projector view is up on the board so they can see their response in front and your projector view displayed. Since we don't have that in distance learning, they have to jump back and forth between tabs. Sorry. But great question, Jody. Thank you for asking that. And Mary, thanks for jumping in and telling me that. Okay. So if you are in our Zoom call right now and watching just my shared screen, go ahead and open that tab again that has our Pear Deck presentation. If you did not get the link, we'll go ahead and put that in the chat for you again. Not a big deal at all. And if you are joining from a second device, you're going to go to joinpd.com and you're going to enter the code FTOGRZ. I just have a couple of survey questions for you. Give us just a minute to get there. But the first is just, have you used Pear Deck in the past week? Just kind of getting a feel for where we're at right now. Okay. Awesome. Thank you very much. So for those of you who have used Pear Deck in the last week, how have you used it? Okay, to do that. Kathy, if you are willing to come off of mute, we'd love to hear more about your mini lesson.
Okay, hi. Am I coming through clearly?
You are, yeah.
All right. Well, when I was teaching, I'm retired now. When I was teaching, I did special needs, and the majority of significant delays. So I still work with one of the students outside of the school district arena, and I thought I would try to use this to create a little mini lesson with her. It's not, polished and everything just right where it's something I'd actually use, but it was a great format, to get me going with it. And so I started out with doing flashcards with hello, how are you, goodbye, and little pictures, I guess there weren't pictures in that, there was definitions. And so the definition was good. In goodbye, I wrote in go away, because we were wanting to keep things that's meaningful to her. And hello is significant, that's common. And how are you? So she's selectively verbal and nonverbal, and a number of other issues. So then I lost all of that. So then I went in and did some with slides, and basically the same thing, but picking the pictures that she would relate to. So the cute little doll for hello and the waving, and then the middle one, how are you, with a couple of teenage gals talking, and the next one was okay, and that's just two characters looking at each other, and then the goodbye. So something simple, but that would be in line for her, where she's at, and working with her to communicate more with others. She'll often wave, but often not respond to people. So we're working on that. Thank you.
Kathy, that's great to hear. Thanks for sharing that. Brad, would you be willing to come off mute and tell us a little bit about what you said? Or really how you used Pear Deck this week?
Right. So I use I use fill in the blank slides. So I have slides that I've already made through like Microsoft. And so I convert those to Google Slides, and then from Google Slides to the Pear Deck presentations. And so I use them as fill in the blank. And so they take notes on the slides and they fill in the blank. And then I'll add in some interactive questions like true or false based on the previous slide that they just saw. I also do some of those lesson starter slides that they have, like what do you already know about what we're about to cover? Slides that are the pre-built ones, you can just insert the start of the lessons. And then they have the in between lessons. So they have some of those pre-built ones you can put in between. And so I just add my questions into the ones they already have pre-built based on what the previous slide had on it. And then at the end of the slides, they have those summary slides that are pre-built. And so I put some of the summary ones, like what are 2 things you learned from today's lesson? And then they type that in. Of course, you get to see it. Or if your friend was missing class today, what was the most important thing you might tell them from today's lesson?
Awesome. Brad, what do you think? What kind of questions give you the best information from your students?
Like, what did you learn from the previous slide, or what was the highlight? You know, kind of to see what they, to see what stuck, or what seemed to be important to them. You know, because sometimes what you want for them to see or to think isn't what they saw or thought about that slide. So I think that get, you know, some feedback on those, on what you're covering, you know, for the subject material.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. All right. Okay, so I'm gonna go through just a little bit of a brief review. Oh, before I do that, Jody said she used it for a couple math lessons and loved the end of lesson templates. Okay, that's super good to hear. And Jody, if you want to come off mute and tell us more, you can, but I know you said your internet connection isn't great, so that's totally okay too.
I mean, you guys are lagging a little bit, so I don't know if it's the same, but I really liked, like Brad was saying, the two where they had to reflect on two things that they've learned. You know, I used to do it from the chat and have them send me their response in the chat, but I didn't really get a lot of feedback. When I started doing it on Peardeck, I got a lot more, and it was easy to kind of redirect them as they were typing, you know, telling them to be more specific. And, you know, when we were talking about rational and irrational numbers, they couldn't just say, I learned about rational and irrational numbers. So I could immediately say that they needed to be more specific as they were typing. So you could watch them delete and then start typing again. I really liked that feature.
Well, that's awesome. Now, I'm just curious, as you're watching these come in, are you just like telling the class as a blanket statement, hey, you can't just tell me you learned rational numbers today, and you're seeing that change, or are you using the teacher comments? How are you giving them the feedback?
A little bit of both. If it's something that I've noticed for more than a couple, then I will say it out loud. But I also, you know, if it's just a small misconception that's easy to type, I have responded with a few comments.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to spend a couple of minutes just going through a brief review. You're welcome to either stay in the Peardeck slides or jump back over to our Zoom meeting. Either one is fine with me. But just to jump back to our first session, we talked the first night that we met about the three main components. So we have the website, we have the Google Slides add-on, which is that toolbar that you're opening when you're working in Google Slides. And then we also have that Power Up extension that lets us use things like videos and animations and GIFs when we're presenting a Pear Deck. That third one is not a requirement by any means. It can just be nice if you're used to using some of those fancier features in your Google Slides presentations. So we spent a lot of time last week in the Google Slide add-on. Tonight we're going to spend time at the website. But really quickly, just to review that add-on, to access the Peardeck add-on once you've installed it, you'll open Google Slides and you'll click on the add-ons button in your toolbar and you should see Peardeck listed. So you'll open Peardeck. Once you do that, you'll see this window on the right side, and this has really everything that you need to create an interactive presentation, right? We use Google Slides to build the actual, the content that's being displayed for students. And then I heard a teacher describe it this way today, but it's almost like we use the Peardeck add-on as like a little superpower for our slides. We just give them, yeah, go ahead.
Did you want to be sharing your screen? Are you?
Oh, great. Yes, I am. Thank you. Nope, you're good. I'm looking at my screen and thinking that we're on the same track. So there we go. I think, am I sharing my slides now? Okay.
Yes, you are.
Mary Jane, I appreciate it. Okay, so anyway, so we're using that toolbar to the right side to add interactive features to our slides. And so You can either choose slides from the template library that we looked at, or we can ask students any of these question types. We do have to know that if a free subscription runs out, or sorry, the free trial of Peardeck Premium runs out, then we lose access to the drawing and the draggable slides. Those are the two paid features. There's also an option toward the bottom of this menu to add audio to our slides, and we're going to take a look at this a little bit more next week. But just know that really anything you have to do to build your slides are right here in this toolbar. And then when we're ready to present a lesson, we have to push start lesson from that Peardeck toolbar. If we push present from Google Slides, it's not going to recognize that we have an interactive slideshow. It's just going to appear like a regular presentation. So again, make sure that you're launching from the Peardeck add-on. Any questions, things you've encountered this week, challenges, that sort of thing?
So you just said that, you know, we have to hit the start lesson for it to launch Peardeck, but I created a presentation where it had a bunch of transitions in it. Could I still use those? Would they still show up with the start lesson feature, you know, with the space bar? And
my understanding is that they should, if you have the power up, that extra, I think it's an extension. But to be honest, Jody, I'm not sure.
Okay, that's okay. I didn't try it on that one that I presented today because I wasn't sure. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions? All right, we'll go ahead and keep moving, but if there is a big question, feel free to stop me. So that was a lot of the content that we covered the first night that we met together. Last week, we looked at some presentation features and then some of the creative features that we have access to. The presentation features that we looked at were the teacher dashboard. So what we can see behind the scenes that has student names attached to it. And then the option that we have to give feedback. So writing private messages to students, giving them a little bit of additional feedback, and then student takeaways, which are published at the end of the session. And it essentially sends students a copy of all of the slides from your presentation, plus the responses that they left for you. And it puts that file in their Google Drive, but it also shares it with you. So you have a copy of those student takeaways as well. And I published those after the last session. So if you haven't seen those and you're curious about them, you're welcome to take a look in your Drive, or also they should have come through your Gmail that you signed up with as well. We took a look at some of the creative options last week. One of them is the template library, so just the ability to add those pre-made slides to your decks, and then some lesson examples and just some ways that other educators are using Peardeck right now with students. And so I gave a challenge at the end of the last session to bring a Peardeck to share. Not something that you had to do, but if you wanted to do that, now is the time. So if anybody has a Peardeck to share, go ahead and come off mute and you can tell us about it. And if you want to share a screen, that's totally okay too. But do we have anybody that's interested in sharing a Peardeck? But if you came with one and you would like to share it at some point, please know you are welcome to do that. This is the time and the space to do it. Okay, we're gonna shift gears. So like I said before, we're gonna take a look at adding audio to slides next week. We're also gonna take a look at those student-paced lessons. But tonight we're gonna shift gears really away from the Peardeck presentations into sort of a mini feature that Peardeck has available that's completely free, and that is Peardeck Vocabulary. Peardeck Vocabulary. This is a feature that is kind of a standalone feature, and that it's not something that you just add on to your lessons in bits and pieces. It's more of an activity that you would do with your students on occasion. But it can be pretty fun, and it's got some unique spin to it. And so we're going to look at Peardeck vocabulary tonight. And the program that we're looking at is called Flashcard Factory. It was designed to transform the way that students engage with vocabulary, making it an active, social, and deeper learning experience. Flashcard Factory, like many of the things that we use, was designed for in-person use in the classroom. And so it can be extremely interactive, very social. I've seen kids really get into it in a typical classroom setting, but you can also use it from a distance too. And so I'll show you just some strategy for using it during distance learning as well. The Flash Factory game, just to give you a brief overview, is essentially making a teacher-prepared vocabulary list, asking students to create definitions and illustrations using digital tools, and then the teacher and the class get to work together to vet those flashcards to decide if those are accurate representations or they're not. And in pure Peardeck fashion, it lets student responses be totally anonymous, and it also gives teachers full control of what they display and what they respond to privately. So that's just a little bit of an overview, but we're going to actually jump in and play a game tonight. And so you can actually go ahead and close out of our Peardeck presentation. I don't think your internet's probably gonna hold up super well trying to run everything at the same time. So you can close out of our Peardeck and just keep the Zoom call open. I'm going to go ahead and end this one. Maybe. And you're going to get to see kind of behind the scenes on the teacher side for just a second. It is going to share the takeaways, so you'll see tonight's as well. I'm going to jump back into Google Slides. And then I'm just going to show you what this looks like on the teacher side first as we get this set up, and then I'll show you how to join our Peardeck. So to get the Flashcard Factory, the first thing that we have to do is go to peardeck.com, and you're going to get all of these instructions at the end, so don't feel like you have to write everything down. We go to peardeck.com, and just to get this game set up, we go to teacher login. And from teacher login, we have this option in kind of the lower right corner of this menu that's Peardeck vocabulary. So we're going to create a vocab list. To create my vocab list, I've got a couple of options. I'm going to show you this in more detail in just a little bit, but for right now, I'm just going to let you watch me kind of set this up, and then again, we'll talk through this in just a few, and you'll get the step-by-step directions. So I'm going to import a vocab list. I'll paste my list right here in the text box. And then because I don't want to write the definitions right off the top of my head, I'm going to let Peardeck find the definitions for each of the words for me. So I'm just going to quickly go through. I think I'll let Peardeck write definitions for us. And sometimes Peardeck doesn't have the definition, so sometimes we have to look up a definition or we have to write our own. We'll just copy and paste a quick definition. Let's see if we've got a professional development one. See if we can get flashcard. Oh, we don't have flashcard either, really? factory, we'll take it. This is definitely something that you can do ahead of time, but I did want you to be able to see what this process looks like if we're trying to do it fairly quickly. So I have 9 vocabulary words. I've imported a list of words, and then I've let Peardeck choose most of my definitions for me. And once I have my vocabulary list ready to go, I'm ready to play Flashcard Factory. So I'm going to go ahead and push play. And because we are in sort of a distance learning setting, we're going to go ahead and clock in ahead of time. So I'm not going to have you log in quite yet. And I'm going to actually start this game. We'll talk about what this screen means and how this applies when students are in person. But just to get us started, I'm going to say, let's play, and then I will give you directions for joining the game. So again, in pure Peardeck fashion, they leave join code available for you, but it's sitting down here in the bottom left corner. So for this, you are going to go to joinpd.com. So go ahead and open a new tab. And then you'll enter the code KZOSAM, and I'll put it in the chat also. KZOSAM. So again, joinpd.com. And then that join code this time is KZOSAM. And this might take a minute to get in. That's totally okay. Once you're in, you're going to get a screen that looks something like this window that I just slid in front. And you'll get some instructions. The instructions on this flashcard is just to work with your group. This is really work by yourself to draw an example of a pair. So it gives you a word, it gives you the definition, but your job is to draw a picture. Peardeck's either going to tell you to draw a picture, or it's going to ask you to write an example sentence that uses the word pair in it. So we're going to play this for 7 to 10 minutes. We'll see how long it takes us to get in. But I just want you to have a chance to see what this looks like from the student side. And if you happen to have 2 devices open, then you'll be able to also watch my screen that's being shared right now and see what happens on the teacher side. In this student example, so if I were working on this one and I needed to draw an example of a pair, I'm just going to very quickly draw my picture. Once finished drawing my picture, I just click I'm done drawing. And then I have to write an example sentence that uses the word pair. Once I'm done writing my sentence, I just click I'm done writing. I can confirm that this is the card that I want to submit. And once this looks good to me, I'm just going to say it looks good, ship it. It's going to give me another vocabulary word. On the teacher side, as this is happening, you can see this flashcard, which is actually the flashcard that I just created. You can see my little picture sitting here. This flashcard fell out of my little pipe and is now going along the conveyor belt. And as students are producing flashcards, you can see this happening on the screen. As students are producing flashcards, they continue to flow along the conveyor belt. They're added to a stack for teachers and students to vet at the end of the activity. So go ahead and do this for just a couple more minutes. Awesome. We got them in just in time. Thank you so much. All right, we are going to move to the next phase, which is quality control. So if you would like, you're welcome to watch this from the student side, or you're welcome to watch my screen. So now we are vetting these cards, and we're deciding if these are great examples or if they're not so much. Now, the thing to know with this, student names aren't displayed, and typically, like with the way that this was designed, students are actually working together in pairs, so there's a little bit of co-ownership happening here. Distance learning pair work doesn't work quite so well, although you could do it. But we're just going to jump through these really quickly, and I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm going to show you this for function and not so much for me actually vetting your cards. So please, if I use you as the example of the one that gets rejected, don't take it personally. We're just going to go through and vet these really quickly. And so I can see on my conveyor belt at the bottom, the first two cards are pair cards, and we could go ahead and do both of these now, or we could choose something further down the line. But we're just going to take a look at the very first one. So we have our vocabulary word at the top. We have pair, the picture that was drawn, and then it says Bartlett pears are the most delicious. If we look at that and go as a class, or we're just on the teacher side, like this is a great flashcard, we can accept it. We click the check mark, it gets the stamp of approval, and Peardeck gives us the next card. So this one was mine. I ate a pear for lunch today. Say this isn't quite what we're looking for, we're going to go ahead and deny that. Now, you'll notice at the top, we've got an orange team and a blue team. This is the day shift and the night shift. Students have automatically been put into two teams. Again, when you do it on the distance learning side, that's not advertised as much as it is when you're in class and they're working in pairs, because they're put onto teams right at the beginning, they're put into pairs. But it is going to keep track of the score for people who are identified day shift and people who are identified night shift. So we have deck, playing Go Fish with a deck of cards. We'll go ahead and accept that. It gets the stamp of approval. We can see the cards at the bottom on the conveyor belt. I have a deck of cards. Awesome. 1 point for the day shift, and we just continue moving down the list. I don't know. I was thinking, there we go. My list slides at the bottom, so I have a little slider, and I can look through all of the cards at a glance. Vocabulary, villain, a person who is the evil antagonist. I like this. It's a good vocabulary word. We'll go ahead and accept that. A list of words in a specific story or text, we'll go ahead and accept. You can do this, again, just from the teacher side and accept and deny, but really the power in this comes from the class discussion and how well we're able to represent the vocabulary words that we're presenting, that the students are presented with. So we can go through, again, you'll see the points are automatically calculated at the top. We can see what's been accepted, what's been denied. do not take this personally. I'm just going to go ahead and show you another one that gets denied. We just continue to move and continue to move. So you could go through all of the deck of cards if you wanted. You don't have to. And again, if you want to jump from where you're at in the queue to something else, you could just click on the next card, decide if you want to accept it or not, and move on. Once we're finished, we get this message, we've made an amazing set. And realistically, that's the end of the built-in activity. Like the whole experience here in creating the flashcards is the activity that students are completing together. That said, there are some neat things that you can do from there. You can print your flashcard set. So students could actually have a hard copy of the flashcards that they created. You also have the option to export to GimKit. Now, this is not something that I've played with a ton because GimKit, I realized really quickly, has a lot of limitations unless you bought the version. And so I have not experimented with that a ton. They used to partner with Quizlet and have a lot more variety in how students practice with their flashcards. They just don't have that now. And so that is the flashcard factory. Again, it's really all about this process of getting to create these flashcards and these representation for the vocabulary terms. Definitely not something that I would recommend doing every single day, but it is kind of a nice change of pace every once in a while. And so that's what we're taking a look at tonight. I'm going to walk you back through the process of getting one of these activities set up, and it's going to take me just a minute to go through here. We'll go ahead and leave this. I need to pull my slide deck to my other screen. So I'm going to do this really quickly. Thanks for being patient. Any questions before we get into how to do this? Okay. All right, so again, I know I said this a couple of times, but just so you don't panic, I'm going to show you a lot of steps, but you're going to get the URL again at the end of our session with all of the slides in the deck that I'm using, and in that slide deck are step-by-step instructions for how to do everything that I'm going to show you next. And so just know our session's being recorded. You can go back and watch that later. You can also access the slide deck. Please don't feel like you have to write everything down right now. But to use the flashcard factory, the first thing that you have to do is log into peardeck.com. So we'll go to peardeck.com. And we want to make sure we log in as teachers. There is no student login, they're just joining sessions, but we'll log in as the teacher. And then we're going to work from this green rectangle down here that says Peardeck Vocabulary. So we'll go ahead and choose Create a Vocab List. And that is the first thing that we have to do. It's going to take just a second to get this load. So when you add a vocabulary list to Peardeck, you have three different options. The first is to choose words from a pre-made list that Peardeck has created. The second is to paste a list from another source. So if you have vocabulary terms from a unit that you're working in, you can copy and paste those. And the third is to manually enter your own terms and definitions. One variation of that is to leave the definition field blank, and then instead of having to write a sample sentence for a vocabulary word, having them write the definition. So that's another way to do that. The first method for a vocab list is choosing from a pre-made list. And so to choose from a pre-made list, we click the menu button in the top left corner, and we click on Find Vocabulary Lists. Peardeck has vocabulary lists sorted by grade level, are recommended vocabulary words for students to know. So if I'm working with 4th grade students and I don't have a list of words that I need them to learn this week, I'm just practicing, I can scroll just a little bit. I've got some instructions written here, but it's got a list of vocabulary words that I can use with my students. So if you looked through this list, you could find maybe 5 to 10 vocabulary words that you wanted to cover with them. You could copy and paste them into a list or just select them. So I'm just going to go ahead and highlight Let's go with 8 words. We'll right click and copy. I'm going to be totally honest with you. This is not a feature that I've used just because I've never found the moment when I don't have an intentional list of vocabulary words that kids need to know. I'm just showing you this because it is a resource here. But I'm going to copy their list, and then we'll go back to our vocab editor. We'll import the list. And then just like it says on the screen right here, each line creates a card. Tabs separate terms and definitions. So I'm going to paste my list. It puts each word on its own line, so each word will get its own card. If I wanted to paste the definitions, I could do that as well. I don't have the definitions for them yet. So I'll go ahead and import the list, and it adds it to my vocabulary list right here. Now, just like I showed you earlier, you can type in a definition manually. You can also choose to look up a definition. And so if we have this first word alter and I click on definitions, it will give me however many definitions that Merriam-Webster pulls up for me. So this is the only option for alter. If I click on it, it inserts that definition right there for me in the moment, and can be a pretty quick process. So I'll look up assess. I have 3 different options to choose from, plus a couple more options down here. We'll go ahead and take a look, and I can choose an option and move on to the next vocabulary word. Now, just like I said, you can paste the list from Peardeck's predetermined list, or you can paste your own list. It's just when you import that list of vocabulary words, just know that you need to put your words on separate lines. So just use the enter key to separate them. If you have your list of words and your definitions, then type your word. So I'll put vocabulary. And then the tab is what separates the word from the definition. So if I hit the tab key and then right to the definition, you can see in this preview down here, the vocabulary word went to the term box, and then the definition went in its own field as well. And then to enter another word, I just use the enter key, and that lets me start to type another word. And again, we can see the preview right below it. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel. The third option for vocab list is really just to enter the words and the definitions manually here. So we have all of those different options. I'm going to go ahead and leave the rest of these blank just for the sake of time. But once you have your vocabulary list here, you can go ahead and give it a name. You're ready to play flashcard factory with your students. So it is something I would say not a bad idea to have the prep work done ahead of time, but if you decide to do this in the moment, you really can set it up pretty quickly. Once you're ready to start with students, we click Play Flashcard Factory. I'm going to continue without adding the definitions because I did that on purpose. Go ahead and start the game anyway. And then this is where it gets a little bit tricky because like you said, this was designed pre-distance learning, pre-COVID outbreak. And it was designed to be done in class and with students. And so you're going to see some notes here that just are not going to apply if you're in distance learning, and that's okay. So the first is to make sure that this browser window is visible on the classroom projector so that you can visualize this for me. If you've got kids sitting in your classroom, you can put that conveyor belt up on the board and kids can actually see after they submit their card, they see the card fall down and land on the conveyor belt and shoot along. So they're seeing their work get turned in real time. So we do usually put that up on the projector. It doesn't show student names, so it's not identifying them as they're working. And then students in the same way that they would join a Peardeck presentation. So we go to joinpd.com. It's that same website. They get a code to enter. You can see here how many workers have joined. And once that happens, you click clock in. Now, something really kind of cool happens if, I guess I went back too fast. So if you wait at that last screen for students to clock in, say I've got 24 students in my class, they are signing in, they enter that code, we say clock in. Peardeck's going to automatically sort them into day shift groups and night shift groups. And so they'll be in 2 teams, but then within those teams, they'll be in pairs. When I've done this in person with students, typically this is where a lot of movement happens. So students are placed into pairs and they're placed on 2 teams. And so we might start out by saying, hey, if you are a night shift pair, find your partner and go sit on the side of the classroom. If you are a day shift group, find your partner and go sit on this side of the classroom. It is, when they're working in pairs, it's really helpful if they can sit next to each other and collaborate, because they're working with the same vocabulary word, just one is drawing and one is writing the sentence. And so, and this is just how we've done it in the past. There's lots of movements. Kids get up and move to the side of their team and with their partner. If you see a list of teams up here, sorry, this is hard to demo. We don't have any students in here. But you'll see your list of students, you'll see their partners. If this does not look like the set of teams that you want, you can click shuffle teams. It will rearrange your teams for you. My understanding is that you don't manually set your teams. They don't have the option, but you can shuffle them as many times as you need to. So once you're content with your teams, your kids are set, you can click let's play. Now, if your students are not in person, like most of ours are not, you could still do this in pairs, totally. You just have to know your kids are flying blind. Like, they're gonna get a vocabulary word and they'll either be asked to draw a picture or write a sentence, and they're gonna have no idea what their partner is doing. So maybe the word is pear. One person talks about, like, I ate a pear for lunch today. That's the sample sentence. But then maybe the drawing is like a pear up in a tree. And so they don't match together. Just know that that's a possibility, but you could do that and turn that into part of the challenge. If you don't want your students working with pairs, then you're going to skip from that clocking in screen. So you're not actually going to have them join yet. You're going to skip past this. You're going to say, let's play, just like we did. And then you're going to give them the join instructions and say, okay, now everybody go to joinpd.com, enter the 6 letters, and then they're just going to be working independently. They'll get a vocabulary word and they'll be asked to both draw a picture and write a sample sentence. So that's kind of the workaround during distance learning, is having students work independently. But jumping back to when they're in person, or if they're in pairs, just know, if, say, Lorena and I are on the same team and our first word is brief, Lorena might draw the picture, I might write the sentence, but it's automatically going to switch us for the next word. So with assumption, she would then be the opposite. So it's not putting, like, the same kid is not drawing the picture every single time. It jumps them back and forth. Lorena, did you have a question?
Yeah, I did. I missed, how did you, okay, I've made my list and I've got my definitions and I'm on the clock in page, but we're doing distance learning. So how do I skip from the clock in to the let's play? How do I
go
skip
ahead
that?
and just click clock in?
Oh, okay.
Perfect. And then do you have the day shift and night shift now?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead and click, it's like let's get started in the bottom right corner.
Let's play. Yeah.
Yep, let's play. Then this is
Okay.
where your students would join.
Oh, okay. And then
Yep.
they have the little code just down in the corner so I can tell them that.
Exactly.
Okay. All
Yep.
right. I
No,
got it.
great question. So yeah, and so then as they're working, you just get to kind of sit back at this point and watch and talk with them. As far as I know, there is not a teacher dashboard on this one, so it's not like you can pull up their flashcards behind the scenes and vet them. That if you figure out how to do that, let me know, because I would love to learn. This really, again, is designed for when you're in person, and so they're picturing the teacher walking around the classroom and monitoring and giving feedback in person. They have not adjusted this yet to meet the needs of distance learning. So, and then just like when we did this, you can skip to quality control, you can skip to the shipping phase, or you can just end this whole thing and leave the factory from your menu on the left. really you're looking for the next buttons on the right side of the screen. So when you feel like you have vocabulary words or examples, flashcards, for enough of your terms, you can move your kids to quality control at any time. You're not bound by having a certain number of cards or students being done with a list. You can move to quality control again anytime. We move through quality control with those stamps, so the check mark and the little X, it's just, we got it, we didn't get it, there's not a send back option. And once you're done vetting all of your cards, we click the button, say next phase shipping, and then the cards are shipped away and delivered. And you can, again, print these cards, or you can export them to GimKit, and that gives you another game that you can play with students and with those flashcards. So any questions with this process? Okay, so what I would like to do is just take maybe 10 minutes and just give you a chance to get in and practice and look at your different options. If you are creating an actual list and you want people to join your list just to see what it looks on the teacher's side, feel free to put that join code in the chat. I'm happy to jump in and test some of these for you just so you can see what it looks like from the teacher's side. But we'll go ahead and take about 12 minutes, use that time to practice how you want, and then we'll come back together. If you have questions, feel free to ask them anytime.
City, vocab city, kind of the same deal. You can make vocab lists, and often for your curriculum they already have those lists. You just kind of import them for your class, and it will read most of the time, depending on the list. It will read those kinds of definitions and stuff, and there's all kinds of games built around those vocabulary and spelling lists, as well as you can make your own.
Awesome, thank you. I've done like very little spelling city. We did memory games with some of the reading street words last year, but that is all I've done. If there are questions, or if you want to stick around afterwards, then that's totally fine. But just a couple of things before we run out of time. Our last session, our Peardeck Social number 4, is next Thursday from 7 o'clock to 8:30 p.m. And we are going to go back to Google Slides and the Peardeck add-on, but talk specifically about student-paced lessons, what those look like, and then that audio enhancement piece that we have. And just be aware the features that we're going to look at next week are mostly premium features. So just come prepared for that. That said, there should be some principles and things that you can take and apply in the regular class setting as well, or when you're using the free version. But that's where our focus will be next week as we start to wrap up. You're also welcome, if you want to bring a story or bring an example of a presentation that you've given, just to share with other people or even to get feedback, you are welcome to do that. This is a great space to do that and to collaborate with each other. If you are needing additional support, whether that's a chance to visit one-on-one or to work through some things or to troubleshoot, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. My email address is here on the slide. And I'd love to take some time to work with you and get you to where you're feeling comfortable with this platform, if we could do that, or just try and answer questions that you have. And so my email address is there. If you would like a copy of this slide deck, it does have all of the step-by-step instructions for Flashcard Factory. The URL is here. It's bit.ly/pdsocial3. You'll have to save a copy of the slide deck, but you can do that, save it to your own Google Drive, and then have a copy of that and do with that whatever you need. So with that, thank you so much for your time. Thanks for joining us tonight. And if you have questions, I'll stick around and try to answer those as best I can. But otherwise, get some rest tonight and have a great Friday and a great weekend.